Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of XenTegra on Air podcast series. I'm your host, Indrajeet Ghorpade, Director Solution Engineering for XenTegra India. And I have with me a friend who was there in one of our earlier podcasts. And uh, henceforth, he will be the person with us and giving us insight on IGEL, what is happening with IGEL. So we have Mr. John Moody. He is the director for pre-sales, UK and APAC, and emerging markets. So he's having a lot of insight about the technical aspects of like what is going on in IGEL. Hey, hi, John. Nice to
Good
meet you.
morning, Indrajeet. Good to be here again. How are you doing? You well?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I was nearly coming out to visit you in February. Unfortunately, I can't make it because I'm getting married later this year, and my
Oh,
future wife won't let me go. But I'm nearly there. I'm nearly all ready for my trip to India. So hopefully later this year we can get together in person. Maybe we do a live podcast together. I don't know. We'll have to see how that one goes. But yeah, it's super good to speak to you again today, though.
yeah. And definitely, like when you'll plan to India, definitely will have those lot of events, in-person meetings with the customers in India. Because for this market, IGEL is little new solution, though it's a
Mm,
proven solution in European market as well as in North America and like other regions. But for India, it's a new solution or like there is very less awareness. So that is
mm.
the reason we thought of like starting this podcast and like we are creating that awareness in our audience. So definitely when you'll plan for India, your India trip, definitely we'll
Oh.
have a lot of meetings as well as couple of events for our customers and our listeners.
Do you know what I'm so excited about? And obviously, I had a change in role at the beginning of this year, and I picked up India as a territory to go and do some pre-sale things with partners like yourself. And I think for me, it's a part of the world I've never been to. I've worked with lots of people in the UK who are from that part of the world. I'm so excited about getting out and sort of seeing that, meeting people, and sort of seeing the culture and stuff. Oh, I can't wait. And it's not the UK, which is right now very dull, very wet, very cold. So yeah, I'm genuinely excited. But yeah, let's see how we go.
Yeah. So I think this today, like this is like kind of one of
Mm,
the first webinar in this year, which like only two are recording, right? Or we are there to start the series in this year. And even recently, there are a couple of changes, or I'll say on the rebranding, couple of programs starting with IGEL. Even I can see logo behind you in your
yeah.
background, right? So that is little bit changed because till now, like IGEL was with the logo of IGEL, that hedgehog, right? That
Mm,
was kind of a USP or everyone knowing IGEL as a solution with that logo. So now
yeah.
this is yeah, well, now with the new start, new year, this new logo, I think there must be, and with the new management, new CEO in place, right? A new management in the like place, right? A lot of changes in the organization, a lot of new people are getting added. So there must be something behind this rebranding. So I think
Yeah.
in today's episode, we will try to put some light on that, try to discuss, like,
Absolutely.
we want to hear from you, right? What exactly the plan behind it, and like overall about this rebranding and like any new programs.
Sure. Absolutely. Love to talk about that. So, it is such an exciting time to be at IGEL at the moment. Just the motivation and the passion that everybody seems to have, right from, the teams in Germany writing the product and developing the product through to the sales teams going out there and talking to customers about it, partners like yourself also kind of bringing those solutions like iGel and Microsoft and Citrix and VMware all together is such an exciting time. And as we start this new year, sort of being part of that journey is really exciting. So yeah, you're quite right. We announced new branding It's more than just a new logo, I'm happy to say, although I personally really like the new logo. You can still see elements of Hedgehog
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there. If you old school, we call it the spark. Internally is what you might hear us referring it to. So you got that, and then you got this kind of branding thing going on around here. And I think it's part of the evolution of IGEL, right?
yeah,
I think it's part of us as maturing. And in the past, IGEL has always been that endpoint OS that you needed if you were doing VDI.
yeah,
So you were doing your VDI project, and we spoke on the last episode about, you know, I've been around this industry for hundreds of years, you know, and back in the olden days when all we had were black and white monitors, um, you know, you'd put your Citrix solution in, or you'd put your VMware Horizon solution in, and you'd buy an endpoint that could connect to it. And you know, that's kind of what IGEL did, right? We were thin
yeah,
client manufacturer. We'd make some thin clients, and away you go. Um, and really, that world's kind of changed now, really, and IGEL are kind of growing up and reflecting that new world that we're now in. And that is really, you know, we're in the world now of it's a cloud first application strategy. So
yeah,
whether you're delivering those applications via SaaS or even internally hosted web apps, you could still argue that's an on-premises cloud, I suppose, or whether you're delivering Windows apps via DAS or as published applications. Um, Really, what we as an industry have done is we're still using an endpoint strategy from the past. And that endpoint strategy of the past is where I take typically my Windows laptop and I load applications locally onto it. I
yeah,
then spend money on antivirus or another security agent. I'd have teams of people sending Windows patches down every patch Tuesday. Um,
yeah,
and even though today we are now focused on this idea of a cloud app, whatever form that takes rather, but we're not installing those apps locally. But our endpoint strategy hasn't caught up. We're still deploying the same operating systems. We're still facing the same challenges with operating system patching. We still face the same challenges with ransomware attacks. We're still monitoring it in the same way, but we're moving the applications off the endpoint, but we're still deploying the same one. So part of the IGEL rebrand is to refocus and say, hey, do you know what? You don't need to do that anymore. Now that you're moving those application workloads to the cloud, whether they're still going to be Windows or whether they're still going to be, or whether they're going to be web apps, you can now afford to take, re-examine how you deliver that endpoint experience. And why not consider IGEL as part of that overall strategy? With our what we're calling now the preventative security model. So that idea of a locally installed but read-only operating system, and we can talk about this, in some depth today. But the idea of being read-only helps prevent things like ransomware attacks and that kind of stuff, that you're not constantly patching IGEL OS every patch Tuesday, that we're encrypted, we're a modular design. Really what we're saying is we're the operating system that's designed for this
yeah,
new era of application delivery. And that's
yeah,
kind of what we're trying to get across with the rebrand. So less hedgehogs, the hedgehog still remains. So if you ever come to an IGEL event and we're there on the booth, we will still be giving out hedgehogs, but they're now the brand mascot. So it's not the logo anymore, it's the mascot. So we haven't quite got rid of it completely. They will still be there. Um, but yeah, it's really just trying to tell this message now that IGEL is really a security company, right? That's what we're trying to do, is that last mile, that the end point, that interaction between your end users and the applications is the endpoint OS. And what we believe is now's the right time to start taking a different approach to that. If we always do what we do, we'll always get what we've got. Why am I deploying Xbox code? Why am I deploying Windows, media players and technology like that to my endpoints when they're not in use by end users? It's just
yeah,
a larger attack surface, right? And that's the messaging and the branding you're now going to see from us this year.
yeah. I think thanks for this. Like at least some glimpse or like some like information about the rebranding. So with
Mm,
this rebranding, as you mentioned, right, there'll be little change in the strategy. The earlier IGEL OS, Edge OS was specifically meant or like designed for VDI and cloud workload.
yeah.
So now it will be more than that, right? With this rebranding, are there any changes additionally? Like, are there any changes on the sales strategies or like acquiring the customers, like in other regions? Is there any specific plan or like specific change which we can see along with the new branding, right? So you already touched base it, but like maybe if you can just talk more about it, like on the strategy,
Mm.
specific strategy for the way ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what you'll start to see from a strategy perspective is our idea of the secure operating system for now and next. And if you take a look at igel.com today, you'll see things like we're the secure OS for healthcare now and next. We're the secure endpoint OS for financial services now and next. And I think we've got some great stories to tell around those two particular verticals in healthcare and FinServe across retail, manufacturing. I don't think there's too many use cases that really IGEL doesn't have a solution to fit. But I think if we take healthcare as an example, where we partner really well with vendors like Imprivata, for example, to provide that card, single touch log on and authentication,
Yeah,
either straight then into a VDI session. We have many global healthcare companies doing that today, right? Um, and equally, that is, either straight into a VDI session or it's actually just into IGEL OS itself, right? And I think part of the strategy is, look, it's not just boot to VDI, right? Yes, we have that capability. Yes, we are very strong at that capability, but that is not the only choice, right? And you may have groups of users where that is a hard requirement that they just need to boot into straight into a virtual Windows desktop. But what
yeah,
about those users who are only consuming SaaS, right?
yeah,
So they have no Windows apps. Maybe, they're Office frontline workers, so they're just using, Outlook.com, maybe a couple of line of business apps that are there, SaaS only. They don't need Windows, right? So what about single tap on sign on just straight into a nice, clean IGEL desktop where they can access those applications locally? And
yeah,
bearing in mind, we can still do collaboration directly from IGEL OS. So if you want to run Teams, want to run Zoom, you can do that directly from IGEL OS. You do not need to be delivering Windows for every use case. So what you'll see as part of our strategy going forward is that we're not just that one, I don't know if this UK phrase translates that well, but we're not just a one-trick pony, right? So we do more than one thing, right? You can use us as your laptop operating system when you're out mobile working in a coffee shop or working from a partner's office, right? You don't necessarily need that Windows experience every time. And you're going to see us talking a lot more around that. Um, and that's going to be across our key verticals, right? Which is going to be things like healthcare, financial services, call center, um, so retail, manufacturing, secure, conscious customers. So whether they're government, for example, local government, national government, where customers' security is absolutely paramount, then let's go talk to those guys, right? Because we are inherently a secure OS. So, the old model of a preventative, sorry, the old model of remediate, monitor, and then fix the problem once you've had it. The agile approach is slightly different, right? We talk about the preventative security model. So don't have the problem in the first place.
yeah,
And that's where we're seeing a lot of our conversations moving from a point solution to a more strategic conversation, which is absolutely where we need to be. Traditionally, end user compute projects used to start with, how many desktops can I virtualize? When really, and the trick I think we missed is actually what we need to do is start with the endpoint, start with the user experience. What does that need to look like?
yeah.
Because the reason why we didn't is because we were just deploying Windows, right? And now there are choices. And this is where I'm hoping that certainly this year, this is where the conversation goes.
Yeah. And to add on what you mentioned, right, with this new app portal and like a lot of applications getting
Yeah.
added on the app portal. Right now, for majority of the end users, like now, as you correctly mentioned, people are moving to SaaS-based
Hmm.
applications. Majority of the collaboration tools are even like kind of SaaS-based, and even IGEL is providing local installables for it,
Hmm.
right? So with that, now there is like obviously, right, that use case will be there for a VDI or like cloud workspace users. But
Hmm.
for an organization, if they only have a couple of SaaS-based applications like which they are using through a browser or like collaboration tools, then they can only go ahead with IGEL operating system and all their like required services or required application, corporate applications will be available on the endpoint itself. Right?
Yeah,
So no need of any additional solution to like virtualize those services. So everything can be done locally. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it will be a good like change, and like I think it will be a good strategy. In this case, right, for even our for our listeners and our customers, they can actually like even in our couple of episodes we talked about that end user computer strategy or like EUC strategy basically, where any organization should categorize their users like as per the usage of applications or like what
hmm,
services are using. So I think a set of that particular group or like for any organization, a group of like end user computing users must be with that basic services on web services and collaboration tools only in majority of the organizations. So I think it will be a very good start. And yeah, so we can see a lot of customers coming in only for that use case, like using all the applications, required applications locally on the endpoint.
yeah. And I think traditionally that's always been, it's been easier just to give everybody everything.
Yeah,
And it's always been easier. Nobody ever got fired for deploying Windows. It's always been easier just to, oh, we've always done Windows. Why change? I've always done this, so why bother changing? It's worked up to this point. Why shouldn't it continue to work in the future? And I think my answer to that is, well, yeah, it probably will continue working in the future. It's not just going to stop working now, but the pressures that we face today around security in particular, around talent, um, and specifically I mean by that talent retention and attracting that new generation of workers into organizations, these strategies do need to be looked at. I think we've only ever done Windows on the endpoint because that's what we've always been used to at home. And I think we spoke about this on the last podcast. Even at home, I don't run a single operating system. My son runs a gaming laptop, which is Windows. My daughter, she's on Chromebook. We've got a MacBook in the house. We're using voice controlled Alexa. The TV's powered by Android. I have iPhone OS on my mobile phone. I'm using IGEL OS at work. As consumers, we are now used to a multi OS world. And I think the same as so many things in the consumer world have affected things at work, I think we'll start to see that in work as well, right? A lot of customers, if they're big enough, will probably have a Mac presence. So why not? A multi-operating system strategy is not doesn't necessarily equal difficulty. One of the great things about the way that we've designed IGEL OS is to be simple. So if you take we did some estimates that we use in customer conversations, and we reckon for every 1,000 devices, it will cost you roughly 900K, I think US dollars per year to manage those 1,000 devices, which,
yeah,
that's time, labor, expense, licenses, whether that's for your VPN, for your monitoring agents, your antivirus agents, that kind of thing. That's a lot of money. That's
yeah,
really expensive. And yet with iGel, if customers are more than happy, we'll happily work with customers on this, and you guys can as well as partners, is actually run them through our cost calculator. And we estimate that roughly we can save between 50 and 75% of your endpoint management cost per year. So for that
yeah,
customer who's running 900K a year, you're looking at more like 2,000, 220 K US dollars a year to manage that same 1,000 laptops
Yep.
just by adopting a preventative security approach that doesn't need that feeding and watering. It doesn't need that intense management that you get with other operating systems, that doesn't have the ability to have user installed apps. So we don't allow users to install their own, random apps off the internet by the fact that we're read only, that we're encrypted, that we're modular, can all help save cost,
Yep.
notwithstanding things like sustainability. So
Yep.
customers, 40% of customers' laptops won't be able to take Windows 11. What do we do? Put those in the bin? We have only just bought them, and there's so many years life, still left in those devices. It's criminal that we just throw them out. But
Yep.
as we're trying to be more secure and we're trying to prevent things like ransomware attacks and downtime because I've installed a patch and it's gone wrong. Yeah, that's somewhere I think we're increasingly seeing traction, right? Is actually the most important thing and has always been is that end user experience. And I
Yep.
don't think users particularly want or need Windows. That's just what they're used to, right? And you've
Yep.
used IGEL OS as same as I have, and it's easy, right? It's familiar. It's not Windows,
Yep.
but it's familiar. You can get around and you can launch your apps and do your job quite happily. You don't need hours and hours of training, right? It's just I'm there, I'm logged in, I'm on, and I have that familiar experience. And I think end users now are more than happy with those kind of experiences now.
Yeah, and like with IGEL, the best thing is right, you'll have like to work on your corporate applications. You only have those specific applications. There'll be not like tons of applications, tons of
Mm,
settings, and you will be very specific. So on a organization point of view as well, their users will be very much focused on the like specific applications and services which are actually needed to like work on their specific job role, right? So that is kind of advantage. And as you specifically mentioned about IGIL security, so like as per my knowledge and like it is proven, like there are papers as well available on that. IGIL is one of the few operating systems. I'll not name all those operating systems, but IGEL is one operating system which is not at all breached till now. Like
mm.
there were no attacks, such as no
Yep.
at least tested or like no attacks as such on IGEL OS till now. So which is
Ab-
one of the secured operating system in the market because we have seen majority of the operating systems were like at least there was a couple of ransomware
mhm.
attacks or like a couple of security breaches happened. But IGEL is that is one of the operating system which is like never breached or like there were no
No.
attacks as such. Yeah,
Yep.
that is
We, we
actually a good thing.
we have healthcare customers in the UK that suffered really badly with the WannaCry attack,
Yeah,
and all IGEL customers, none of their IGEL devices were affected by that WannaCry outbreak. It was simply a matter of rebooting, and because we're a read-only OS, we go back to
yeah,
trusted OS right from the boot, and those customers were instantly back up and working. Whereas, devices with other operating systems on, yes, they've really struggled. But any IGEL customers, those devices, they were not affected. And, we continue to talk about that with customers now that if you are looking at a preventative security model, it's easier to adapt to that kind of model than I suppose it is to remediate once you've um, been had. I think the thing from our perspective, yeah, the conversation is easy with those customers who've suffered a breach, right? They've
yeah,
already know the pain. They've already sometimes actually paid the price. That they are easier to convince that maybe there is a different way of doing things. And I suppose we see the headlines in the IT press and now in the global press about large companies, large well-known brands being targeted. Um, and I suppose we all, it won't be us, but hackers these days, for me, they're not after credit card details or what they're after now is personal information and things that are
yeah,
embarrassing, right?
yeah,
They are looking very embarrassing. So if that's your healthcare records or your bank statements or
Yeah,
what have you, that's feels to me the kind of uh, areas that these hackers are kind of targeting now. And I suppose from an IGEL perspective, what we're trying to do is remove that human equation, through phishing attacks. Somebody accidentally clicks on a link and it encrypts, and then it's Bitcoin to get it unencrypted. What we're trying to do is be part of that framework, right? We are not 100% of that solution. Zero trust is a framework. It's
yeah,
multiple vendors working in partnership. It's a security model, and I think IGOS plays very much its part in the overall security model, and that's where I think customers need to be talking to partners like yourself. We will happily talk about IGEL, but I can't recommend you which web SASE product to use, for example. That's not my wheelhouse. But this is where
correct.
partners, I think,
Yeah,
come in so much more to offer that. Well, here's an end-to-end solution. It is IGEL, it is Citrix, it is VMware, it is Microsoft AVD, it is then these security overlay products across the top. And it's about having those kind of conversations. I think that's where our relationship with partners like yourself is so vital.
yeah. And one more thing is, right, majority of these ransomware or like these attacks, right, like those were actually impacted on the endpoints. Majority, if we limit to that access, right, then like
Hmm.
you are anyways say, like securing your endpoint. And IGEL is actually in line with this key security basic, right, where
Yep.
the overall operating system is having very like it's a read-only operating system with like for the end user there'll be no access right as such right access on that particular operating system. Whatever that user is going to work is either on the cloud workload on the VDA
Yep.
or the SaaS based application. There'll be nothing local, no
No.
activities happening locally. So that
No.
is actually a best part with IGEL.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can extend that even further. We fully integrate with your single sign-on provider of choice. So if you're using Okta or using Entra ID, we give you that integration as well. So again, you're helping end users not have to remember multiple passwords or different tokens of authentication. And at the same time, you're then improving that user experience. You log on once to your ideal device and we'll pass those credentials through to your desktops, for example. So, we're not only making things more secure, as you
Yeah,
describe at the OS level, but then at the user level as well. But we're aiming to improve that user experience as well through, technology like single sign-on.
yeah,
An IGEL is super quick to boot as well. So you haven't got that 10-15 minute log on time. You literally power on, you're straight in, logged on, web browser's going, which again looks familiar. It's a Chromium based browser that we have built into IGEL OS. So that's familiar. And then you're doing, I think what most end users want to do when they come to work is just log on and get going. They don't want that disruption, that friction
yeah,
of going to work. They just want to get in and get to work, right? And I think that's absolutely our thing in this new world, right? Quick, nimble, but secure, and get
yeah.
in and let's do some work.
Yeah. I think yeah, it was a good like insight about the rebranding and like overall strategy. What are the changes like and like what is the strategy ahead of IGEL for the end customers as well as right overall on the security securing the OS, right? So along with the rebranding, even like there is a news of new program IGEL Velocity program, right? So just want to understand, like maybe we can cover it in details in like an upcoming episodes, but like just
Mm.
want to know like what exactly it is and how it is going to help the customers, partners, and like our
Yeah.
business.
Okay. Now that's a really great question. So the Velocity program, I suppose we spoke earlier around there isn't a single software solution that a customer is going to buy that's going to solve all of their problems, right? As we adapt these new workloads to the cloud, you're going to be integrating and working with lots of different software vendors and lots of other partners who are going to deliver those solutions for you. So really what the goal of the Velocity program is to bring all of that together. So all the different vendors and different providers within the EUC space can come into the Velocity program, and it is really representing the best of the best. That is kind of the idea. So whether that is through channel partners like yourself, system integrators, and what we also call IGEL Ready partners.
Yeah,
So these will be, IGEL Ready partners, for example, say Improvata. So they have tested the integration between Improvata and IGEL OS to the point whereby we will certify that as working, and that will be supported by both of us. So
yeah,
Improvata will support IGEL OS, and we will support Improvata on IGEL OS. And through to channel partners like XenTegra, who we've trained you, we have enabled you. We do things like this with you, right? Which is always
yeah.
great fun. You're my favorite though, right? Um, who've
Thanks.
got that knowledge, who've got that knowledge and that expertise to be able to go and out and recommend IGEL to your customers and design that as a part of a holistic solution. So really, that's what the Velocity program's about in brief. And I imagine you'll hear more about that at the upcoming IGEL Disrupt, which I believe is now in May. I won't be going, sadly. I'm not available, I'm afraid. But yeah, in Miami, April the 29th through to May the 1st.
Okay.
So there'll be the great and the good of the EUC community there. You'll get to hear all about the new IGEL preventative security model. There's even going to be dedicated tracks if you're in healthcare, or FinServe. We can do some dedicated content for those specific verticals. But really, what you're going to see is what is the new IGEL all about? Is that is going to be the place to be? I'm absolutely gutted I can't make it. But for those of us in EMEA, there will be an EMEA there will be an EMEA disrupt later on in the year, so I'm hoping to get to that one. But yeah, the big show is going to be in Miami.
Yeah, so I think exciting time, like a lot of
Yeah.
things to come, and like again, that like in the market, like it was always a known event. IGEL Disrupt was always a known event, and like IGEL is doing for years, right? And like in many regions. So I think this Disrupt will be, I think, a little more special with the new strategy, new branding, a lot of new announcements may be happening.
Hmm.
So excited, exciting time.
Yeah, it is very much so. Very much
Yeah.
so.
So I think, yeah, with this, I think we like touched. We were actually in line with our agenda, and like we actually covered like what this rebranding is about, what is
Mm,
the changes, and like what are the new strategies for this year 2024. And even we touched base a bit about the Velocity program. Definitely we'll talk in detail and like maybe in any of our upcoming podcasts.
yeah.
But with this, I think let's conclude for today. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for your time, and thanks for giving us the insight.
You're
Looking
more than
forward to
welcome.
catch you in like our upcoming episode
Look
in
forward
coming
to it.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thanks ever so much for having me once again. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. Thank you.